All right. Welcome to EOF Implementers Call number 57, 4th of September, 2024. As posted, I have the agenda. One change I'm going to propose that we do is we move spec updates after testing updates because that's probably going to consume all available time. I think there are some testing issues we need to discuss first, but I hope to have 20 minutes to half hour set aside to discuss just the IS contract. I think that's about as much time as we're going to need. First, for client updates, we could probably zoom through client and compiler updates, as there's probably no. Is there anything from any of the client teams apart from we're implementing and fixing tests that needs to be discussed? Gary, got anything from Besu?
Nope, mostly just here to audit.
Okay. And next would be Geth. Geth, I don't see on the call. Nethermind, anything?
We did merge the EOF test CLI support.
Cool. And let's see, Reth, anything above and beyond typical?
No, everything's fine. Just run the latest test, everything's passing, so that should be it. I'll be curious to know if all the clients have support for IP7702 and UF on top of it, so that we at least have some idea when the UF testing or DevNet can be deployed.
Yep.
But we can do that later, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's on the move to prod for activation. We can discuss that there. So yeah, we'll definitely discuss that. Ethereum JS, do we have anyone on the call from Ethereum JS? Nope. EVM1, anything out of the ordinary?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't see anyone from Solidity or Viper. Okay. So yeah, the quick summary is we're getting tests ready for DevNet 4, which is going to be after DevNet 3. And update your implementation matrices. That's basically was an update. We tested the 14.1. They're starting to remove the big change there is they're starting to remove the broken and old duplicated EOF tests out of the legacy Ethereum test repository. And 14.1 gets rid of all of the current broken tests. So you should pass everything that's in Ethereum test that's EOF right now. And that EOF link, that Epsilon link 158. Yeah. So the testing matrix looks like, yeah, so these two lines need to be checked if you're implementing them. I'll get that PR in later today. So the next on the agenda, the first thing is we need to start looking at moving into prod for activation. I guess this is a good time to discuss DevNet 3 and 7702. How do clients, are implementers on these teams also aware of the 7702 implementations and how things are going?
I think on 7702, Ethereum JS and Ret is only passing, at least that was status last week. So I'm not sure if other clients are probably, I'm assuming here, are implementing those.
Okay. Have we launched DevNet 3 yet? I don't think that's happened yet, has it?
No, it should be next week, I think.
Okay,
But I
the
didn't
specs
participate. Yeah, I did participate in Monday's interop call, so I'm not sure.
okay, but the specs are locked in, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the next step, I guess, is to move the EEST tests. Once we're satisfied we have a good EEST spec. Okay, there are a few 7702 changes, but they're scheduled after DevNet 3. But I think it's time to start. Go ahead.
I think they're related to light client's proposal to with invalidation of transaction, but those are very small and they're going to be included after DevNet 3.
Okay, and are they comfortable slipstreaming those into the DevNet where EOF turns on, or are they going to move us to DevNet 5?
Not sure, to be honest. It probably depends when the DevNet 4 is going to be like created.
Okay.
If it is right after the DevNet 3, I would assume I would basically do those changes after EOF, after DevNet 3, after DevNet 4. But this depends on timeline. Either way, there are small changes, so it wouldn't matter if it is included on DevNet 4 or DevNet 5. Yeah.
Okay. But I think the big thing we need to do is we need to start wiring our implementations to activate, at least have a PR ready. If we're not ready to merge it yet. That is synced with your main or master branch. Oh yes, we can watch there's a peep and eat that's being recorded today. Maybe we should jump on that. Or we could watch it via Zoom or next week when it comes on YouTube. But yeah, definitely. But we need to get our either through a PR off of master or main, something that activates our EOF stuff on prog, and that'll help with tests a lot. Because the next thing I want to go through is I've got some implementations for let me put this on a different tab. I went ahead and tested everyone's client against the test nets using your CLI tools. So execution specs has one ready to go. And one of the problems we have is that some clients aren't able to run all the state tests or the block tests because we have very inconsistently named fork names, whether it's with prog with EOF or not prog or Cancun. And I think that's where some of these failures, definitely all of Reth's 11 failures are coming from. And I'm wondering if some of Gether and Nethermind's failures are also related to that mixed state. The big thing I think that gets Reth is they don't activate the create transaction except for prog EOF, and that's not what's generated in the tests. So if we can have one, and I think Mario linked a PR that's going to flip this over to prog. The big change is
it's super simple. So yeah, the EOF fork name changes from either Cancun or EIP 7692 or Prague with the same name to simply Prague, which means that we are gonna enable tests that are parameterized for example, all the call opcodes. Let's say call ext call. All of those are going to be enabled also for Prague, which means that 7702 tests, once they are merged, they're going to be activated for these EOF opcodes too. And I can go over the 7702 tests also if we have time. I can show a couple of examples of how when this PR lands into main and also the 7702 PR lands into main, we can have this cross EIP testing for EOF and 7702. Let me send you the link because it's not in main yet. Give me a second. Or I can share my screen if that's easier.
yeah. So let me stop sharing. And do I need to give you permission?
Let me try.
Should be able to.
All right. Let's see. Does this work?
Yep, I see it.
All right. So yeah, basically this is the main file that we use for 7702 testing. And one of the nice things when we rebase onto, first of all, is the text size okay? Or yeah, okay. Yeah, so one of the nice things is that once we have this thing in main and also we have the activation as Prague set for EOF, it means that we are also gonna be able to parameterize a lot of these tests. Let me show you a couple of examples. Yeah, for example, this one. What happens with these tests for 7702 is that we have these markers that depend on the fork that they are running on. For example, if you have this marker which with all create opcodes, it means that if EOF is activated in the same fork as 7702, it means that it's going to parameterize this particular test, not only with all the create opcodes that we have now, which is create and create two, is also going to parameterize with create EOF create opcode, sorry. So yeah, you can see that we have some code already in place. It's not guaranteed to work at this moment because we haven't tested it with any of the implementation, because now implementation, apart from Besu, supports 7702 plus EOF. But this is just one example, and you can come into this PR. I will share the link in a bit, and you can take a look at all of the tests that we are going to automatically parameterize for EOF once EOF and 7702 are in the same fork in main. But yeah, this is just one example, but we have many others. So for example, tests that are calling into, I think this is a call into the same self-contract. And we test with all the call opcodes, which is currently for DevNet 3, it's just constrained for call, delegate call, and whatnot. But once we activate EOF with 7702 in main, it's gonna extend it to the X variant of the opcodes, which means that's gonna cross test with EOF. Yeah, that's basically just. I think it would be better if you guys come into this file and check this tests by yourselves to see if there's anything missing. But yeah, that's the basic idea.
So it's with all call
I'm sure.
opcodes and with all create opcodes. Those are the two
Yeah.
marks we need to look at.
Exactly. If you come here and you see any test that might need these markers and it has not applied them, I can just totally come here and update the tests. But I think it's a good coverage to start with. I haven't run these tests in EOF mode because there's no filler right now. But once we have the filler, there's gonna be some failures, of course, because they're not tested. But we can clean this up and then we can make another release, which will contain this cross EIP testing.
Cool.
Let me share start sharing. I will share the link directly to the file so you can take a look. There you go. Please take a look. Let me know if you have questions or suggestions also.
I'm writing this down real quick. All right. So let me go back to sharing. Cool. Cool. The next issue on here is fuzzing and Mario's discussion. Ipsilon, do you have anything interesting about fuzzing anything you want to add or that we've done with fuzzing?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, so I kind of stabilized the fuzzer itself. Yeah, there are no new findings. I incorporated Java fuzzer as a kind of side guidance tool, and I didn't include any other implementation because I don't think they pass all the tests right now, so doesn't see the point.
Yeah. Especially because the fuzzing tends to use the tests as their seed corpus. So there'll be a lot of adjacent failures and it's hard to get a good signal. But once once your client's up to 100% on EOF tests, let us know and we'll fuzz it. And hopefully we won't find any more bugs and then we'll be in a good position. And this is for EOF layout. So Cool. Mario also had converting EOF format tests into state tests. Is there anything we want to discuss here other than what's in the list?
So yeah, I think the list is pretty self-explanatory. The way that we're doing this is basically just putting the EOF container into a init container, sorry, and putting that as the transaction data in a contact create transaction. So the goal of this is to test the validation of the EOF container when the client receives the transaction. So this is another code path that I think we should cover. So basically, with this enabled, we are generating every single EOF test as a state test, and the test count basically bumps twicefold. So yesterday I checked, we had 6,900 tests around that. And now with this enabled, we have 12,000 tests. So yeah, it's quite a bump, but I think it's necessary because eventually the only code path that is going to be actually run in mainnet, in my opinion, is just the transaction creation for validation. So I think it's important that we fill those tests with this.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
go
slightly
ahead.
confused about the init mode. I think that should be like the easy part, because the init mode is expected in this in this create transaction, right?
Yeah. So basically, when someone develops a EOF test that it contains an init container, the problem is during verification phase at the end of the state test, because we don't exactly know what the expected deployed code is going to look like. So that is basically the issue. But I think one alternative that we can do is point in the second bullet point, the B option is that these init containers, they need to specify also, apart from the container content itself, they also should specify how does the deployed container look like. So if the tests
Okay.
specify something like this, we can actually verify the deployed code at the end of the state execution.
Okay, I get it. I think I slightly like the B option more, but okay.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more work. So this deploy container is not gonna end up in the EOF test fixture, but it's gonna be significant for the state test. It's a little bit more work, but I think it's worth it. Because we have a one-to-one conversion in this case. Yeah.
There's also not like this a lot of you can do with this runtime container, right? It only differs in the data section. So it will be it's kind of expected to be one of the already subcontainers that exist in the code, and you can only manipulate the data section. So I think maybe it's also worth to just try to like fuzzy match if the other parts are the same, but the data section kind of ignore for now, and maybe specify it as expected data section, something like that. I would need to also take a look and like in practice how difficult it is.
So do you mean like appending data sections dynamically
Because
to
in
see?
in the B option you have like init container as the kind of the main thing of the test, but you also want to have additional, let's say, field of expected runtime container that comes out of it, right?
Yep.
So you can check it actually this was deployed in the state test. So what I mean is that this runtime container, it will be one of the subcontainers of the init container. So you can kind of already, you have like some information already, even without manually specifying this. And the only thing the init container can do to this output runtime container is that it can only manipulate the data section of it. So the rest is expected to be the same, but the data section might have different size and different content. That's the only difference. You can, like, there's no way to modify it, some other parts of it.
Yeah, makes sense. So I think what we can do is, like, for automatic testing, is to try to see if the first container is the one that is deployed, right? If not, the test will fail.
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
the tester will have
maybe
to, yeah,
modify.
exactly.
Yeah, it's like one of them. Yeah, that's true. It's like not the first one. It's like can be one of them, but maybe it's like usually the first one. And in case if it's not, or the data section is
Yeah.
modified, then you would need to specify, expected.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I
Cool.
will try to do that. Let's see how many tests fail or
Okay.
pass with this assumption. Mhm.
Okay. Any other open testing issues? Any other experiences teams are having running the tests?
Yeah, you already mentioned this, but I wanted to say just this new release of the legacy test, and I think we done with it for now, because we should pass all of them. It's 1401, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is mostly the difference between the older version is just removed coverage. I don't think there's any added coverage or fixed. Is that correct?
There was a group of tests that were fixed.
Okay, sorry. Okay, then
But
it's a
I think
meaningful update.
it's yeah, I don't expect this is to be significant actually.
Okay.
So they were fixed, but they were just kind of on this level of examples or something, and it was fixed only by this rule of top
Top
container.
level. Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So only this one, and because we had fixes for them, I don't know, probably for half a year.
Yeah.
Suddenly
Yeah,
it
they
was
weren't
merged,
pushed.
so
Yeah,
I
yeah,
didn't mess it up. So that's
yeah.
the difference. There's some difference, but I think there was like 4 or 5 group of tests, and let's say all of them were converted to east, except one group that was fixed in place, and that's the
Gotcha.
status.
Gotcha. Okay. Nevertheless, don't forget to remove any exclusions if you have this. You probably had exclusions for some of the tests that weren't passing, so be sure to wipe them out before updating, I guess. That's it.
Okay. So I think that's all of the testing items. So I think we can move on to spec items. And the big open spec item is going to be the is contract instruction. We did discuss this last week on ACD. I expressed my concerns that if we just add more stuff, that the rest of the core devs will push back on it. And the plan that was proposed in ACD was we proceed on testnet 4 as is, and then we consider adding is contract on a follow-on testnet if things go well. So to that end, we have an EIP that specifies what we would propose would be added either in prog or in the next major fork, depending upon when it gets slotted. But the intent is that this becomes the solution to the problems we're having with 721 contracts, 1155 contracts, and any other contract that depends on distinguishing an EOA from a smart contract account and behaves differently based on those two. And again, in here, the motivation, we're calling out the safe transfer on ERC 721, on ERC 1155 is our main motivation. So I'd like to open the floor to anyone that has any comments about the flow of this, if this is going to be sufficient, if we need something different. So yeah, Ben, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so is my concern with having the specific is contract rather than say enabling length, even if it returns junky data, is say Solidity libraries where they have an is contract function, say, that's doing size greater than 0. And there's no detection as such to say whether you're compiling to EOF or compiling to legacy. So you don't necessarily know, that it should switch what's being used. If that makes sense. But maybe that's a Solidity thing. But they could add a I don't know, a hash define or if this is a EOF compiled, do this. If it's a legacy, do this. So it's not necessarily a bytecode issue, but certainly in terms of third-party libraries, they need to know what target they're compiling to.
I think many libraries which would use assembly to that extent, or depend on Xcode size or Xcode copy, would have to be changed anyway. They just wouldn't compile.
Yes, but if you're, say, I don't know, Open Zeppelin, and you have here's our, I think they've removed it, but if they had an is contract function, and you as a dev are bringing that in, how does it know whether to call is contract or whether to call Xcode length? If that makes sense.
So is this something that Solidity could add a new is contract function, and they'll be smart enough to figure out whether to decompose it to is contract or the ext code size tests?
Either that or Solidity to add a some kind of if defined or whatever, a conditional compilation. So you could say, if I'm compiling to EOF version 1, use this code. If I'm compiling to legacy, use this code. Because it's really in the compilation, isn't it? Whether what you're using, it's not necessarily anything on chain. If you are compiling to EOF, the bytecode is different. So it is sort of at the compiler level that it would be probably most helpful.
For Solidity, even the is contract, so on the address type, there are a bunch of helpers like this, like .balance, .code, code hash. There was an issue to introduce is contract, which would perform the Xcode hash or Xcode size comparison. There's an old outstanding issue for this. It was never implemented. And there was another one to expose the EVM version, which wasn't implemented because the problem it has is optimization, and the new pipeline Solidity has would be much better at that. So the optimization issue, if they had implemented at the time, then it wouldn't remove the dead code path. for any of that, and so therefore it wasn't done. But I mean, these are long outstanding issues in Solidity, and this basically comes up every single time there's a big breaking change, even in the EVM. And I recall that Open Zeppelin took at some point like a year to transition to a new version of Solidity. I don't think there's really a way around that. Probably the same going to happen.
And this is
So
for
yeah,
something
right.
as subtle as push 0, right?
Yeah, I think Open Zeppelin at least doesn't has that many low-level optimizations, so it's not an issue for them. But something like Solidity definitely is affected by push 0.
Okay. And Ben, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I mean, I've even seen in the Taika contracts, they have a, to try and detect whether certain things are supported. And I think it happens on chain. I'm not sure how. I'll go look at that again. But it is a problem that there's no way to conditionally compile to what the target is, and produce the correct bytecode. I think in Tyco it's they use what is it called? T-store and T-load conditionally.
Yeah. Transient storage. Such a simple change and so divisive.
Yeah, but there's no way to detect if what you're compiling for supports them, and it would be a lot easier if it was done at the compilation time rather than something on chain that you've got to configure.
If only there was a header format where we could signal that we need the new T-store instruction before you load it in the blockchain.
I mean, the solution's there; it just needs to be surfaced.
Okay. So how do people feel about is contract besides those issues? So the main alternative would just be to open up ext code size and ext code hash. And those would address the issues of am I dealing with yeah, go ahead, Dragon.
This contract does makes a lot of sense. To be honest, I'm in support for adding it. It solves the problem to check if the account is contracted or not. Basically, that's the main purpose. So it makes sense to add it.
Okay. Yeah, so let's review the alternatives. The extra argument for the ext call, we would have to do that now and not do later, but it seems a little overwhelming. In addition to the extra status code, no opcodes return 2 values currently, so that would break a lot of assumptions. Exit code status also. And register, and so from here, re-enable ext code size is something we could easily do in the future. Reusing ext code size, reusing the opcode was also considered but rejected. I mean, that would solve a lot of this compiler if all they're looking for is greater than 0, but if they're looking for anything like they're testing in the code size of another implementation, that might cause problems.
Yeah, I mean, that would resolve the conditional compilation issue, but yeah, as you said,
Yeah.
it would be returning junk if they wanted to actually use the value.
Peter.
So on last ACD, there was a mention from someone from the AA team that this would be problematic. So I want to reach out to these people and just try to get a proper write-up or just a description of the problem so that we can put in here. And this is why one of the sections is still at TBD.
Okay.
So once the dust settles and on this EAP, and maybe it's even merged, then I will reach out and try to get hold of them.
By the way, in the chat, I linked the two Solidity issues I referred to. If you want to put that into the text channel.
Okay. Yeah, what was the other one?
Right. I think I just remember what the issue with the EVM version was, that even on the assembly parsing level, it would need like short circuiting to avoid the other path, because it would have instructions not supported on the given EVM version.
Okay. Got those added to the notes, and I got the formatting right. Good deal. Okay, so it doesn't sound like there's any action today on this contract. We should all review it. We'll wait for it to get merged by the EOF editors, and then we can. I think the next big action is we need to have a review from the AA team. I think Peter was the one that mentioned he was going to reach out, right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. So because I think AA of all of them, because that was actually one of the arguments was like, we should ignore it and just live with the account abstraction future, where everything's going to be a contract and this is pointless. But yeah, so we need to get that from the AA team. Okay. So yeah, review this, and in 2 weeks, perhaps we'll have some action items we can have off of this. We won't be in DevNet 4 in 2 weeks, but we might be a week out. So that is one thing we need to keep in mind. Probably we're going to be at least 2 weeks out, though I don't think we're going to do a solid 2 weeks on DevNet 3. I would be impressed and happy if that happened, but I don't think that's where we'll be. Okay. Any other things we need to discuss? Any other implementation concerns as we push towards DevNet 4? I wish Geth would call in. I really think we need their representation here. Okay, any other things we should discuss before we end the call?
What about Aragon? They said they
Aragon.
close
I
to
always forget about
finishing
Aragon.
EOF. Yeah.
There's no one from Aragon on the call, are they?
I don't think so.
Because Aragon 2 is what we're talking about. Because Aragon 3, which is not ready for production yet, is using EVM 1 under the covers. So Aragon 3, I think, is covered. It's Aragon 2. And have they forked significantly from their Geth EVM code, or are they still bringing a lot of that in?
I think it's more complicated. So Aragon 2 can use EVM 1, but it's experimental integration. Aragon 3 it's Go only right now, so it cannot. But I think they're working on the implementation, but I don't know what the status is.
Okay.
And Ben, what did you say about Nethermind? What's the status on UF and ERP 7702?
So we're sort of using the Prague tests, but 7702 is in a different branch, so it's not in. So we're the REOF's on our master, but 7702 is not merged up. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
And 7702 will land in master first, right?
Yes, but I'm happy enough for the test to change to only target Prague,
Okay.
and then we'll deal with whatever fallout comes from that.
Are you running EOF validation basic tests?
Yes.
Okay, cool. What else is there to be done regarding EOF? Do you need to run other tests? We have three types test: East, Ethereum test, and EVM1 suite. So you're running just Ethereum test, or are you running East test?
I think maybe just the Ethereum test.
I looked at your
we-
code and it looks like you're actually pulling the current published releases, but you're not running the EEST from an unfilled Python.
Yes, we're running the published one. The fixtures.
Yeah.
If you need any help, just ping us and at least looking at the traces around that. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And I guess on that, we probably need to get a new set of fixtures published. By the end of the week, I need to finish up the PR that's testing legacy opcodes. So right now the head of EEST is broken. With the EXT call opcodes are actually being called in legacy code, which should not be allowed. So I'm adding tests to make sure that EXT that all EOF codes are not callable in legacy, verifying that they break. And I need to finish that to make sure it breaks in a NIC code and a couple of other usage patterns that Mario wants. But once I get that in, I think we should probably get another set of fixtures out and published, and that'll, I think, help speed some people up.
I think I already left some reviews for both yours and Peter's PR. Yeah, just let me know whenever you want the new release. I maybe we can wait for these two PRs, because I think the state test fixtures is gonna take a little bit more. So maybe only these two PRs, and then we can release.
Yeah, once one of those gets merged, we can release, because that fixes a bug that I put in, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I have one more PR in the pipeline, which is regarding EOF create gas costs, but it's still I got stuck with something else on the way, so it will.
Which number is that?
Not yet pushed. But yeah,
Okay.
just a heads up. But this will surely need to go after the release.
Sounds good.
All right. Anyone else got any open issues, any subject at all?
One more client we maybe missed, Ethereum JS. So I'm not sure how the status of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned them at the top. They do have a fuzzing interface. So I was able to drop a few fuzzing things there. I don't know how to execute their fixtures from a command line. Because if I can get how to execute their fixtures from a command line, I can run it in my own scoreboard test that I posted from my Markdown link. I posted yeah, I run scripts to run all of these. So
I hopefully a number of the failures from our side have been fixed on that.
yeah, I think there's probably like maybe 3 more issues related to like jump F and some pricing. So it should be fair. There's less fixes than failures, I would say. We're getting to that part of the test where we're causing the same failure multiple ways, multiple times, because That's where the bugs creep in. All right. Give everyone 10 minutes back. Thank you for calling in. Thank you for participating and implementing. It's been a pleasure.